We've all worked. We've all worked. We've all worked jobs that we really hated, that we felt like were the hardest thing in the world, that just, destroyed our bodies, stressed us out like crazy. But what is the hardest job? And it's kind of subjective, but we're going to try and search for the truth here. And I want you guys to comment down below what you think is the hardest job, or what is the hardest job you've worked. And maybe it's harder than any of these, but I mean, let's see what the Oracle has to say. Determining the hardest job worldwide, considering both physical and mental toll, is tricky since it depends on metrics like danger, stress, and health impacts, which vary by region and data availability. Globally, jobs in extreme environments with high fatality rates, intense physical demands, and severe mental strain stand out. Data from international labor studies, occupational safety reports, and global health analysts point to a few professions that consistently rank among the toughest due to their combined toll. Here's a look at some of the hardest jobs worldwide, factoring in global contexts and challenges like underregulation, poverty, and lack of safety infrastructure in some regions. Number 1 is deep sea fishers. Globally, commercial fishing, especially in regions like the Bering Sea, North Sea, or Pacific Island fisheries, has fatality rates often exceeding 100 to 200 per 100,000 workers annually. Risks include drowning, hypothermia, boat capsizes, and injuries from heavy equipment in stormy, remote waters. Workers endure 20-plus hour shifts in freezing conditions, leading to chronic fatigue, joint issues, and injuries like rope burns or amputations from gear. In developing nations, lack of safety equipment exacerbates risks. We've seen the commercial fishers from the U.S., but they have equipment. I think they have safety gear. They probably have certain safety regulations. But if you imagine, another country, a third world country, what they're doing with the equipment that they have, I mean, the fatality rates have got to be so much higher. Mental toll. Isolation at sea for weeks, constant danger, and pressure to meet quotas drive high anxiety and depression rates. In small-scale fisheries in places like Southeast Asia or Africa, economic desperation adds stress, as entire families often depend on meager earnings. The International Labor Organization notes fishing as one of the deadliest global occupations, with poor safety standards in many countries amplifying risks. Earnings vary widely, $1,000 to $10,000 annually in developing nations to $50,000 plus, like Alaska, but the physical and mental grind is universal. Number 2 is artisanal miners. Artisanal mining in developing countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Bolivia, or Indonesia involves hand digging in unstable, unregulated mines. Workers face cave-ins, toxic exposure, and lung disease like silicosis from dust inhalation. Child labor is common, and injuries from dynamite or collapses are frequent, with fatality rates estimated at 50 to 100 per 100,000 in some regions. I'm guessing that's annually. Long hours and cramped, hot conditions lead to chronic pain and early mortality. Mental toll, fear of accidents, economic precarity, earnings often under $2 a day, and exposure to violence or exploitation by local militias create extreme stress. In the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, miners often work under threat from armed groups, adding trauma. The lack of regulation and basic safety gear in artisanal mining makes it deadlier than industrial mining. The ILO and WHO highlight how these workers face both immediate dangers and long-term health devastation, often for subsistence wages. Number 3 is conflict zone journalists or war. Working in war zones like Syria, Ukraine, or Yemen, journalists face gunfire, bombings, and kidnappings. The Committee to Protect Journalists reports over 2,000 journalists killed since 1992, with 2023 alone seeing 99 deaths. Physical injuries, malnutrition, and lack of medical access are common, alongside exhaustion from constant travel and erratic schedules. Witnessing atrocities, facing personal danger, and ethical dilemmas lead to high rates of PTSD, anxiety, and burnout. Freelancers, common in conflict zones, often lack institutional support, intensifying stress. The combination of life-threatening risks and psychological trauma from documenting human suffering makes this uniquely grueling. Salaries vary widely, $20,000 to $100,000, but freelancers in developing regions may earn far less. Number 4 is manual scavengers, sewer cleaners in India or waste pickers in developing nations. This is the one that I had in mind when I was thinking about this. In countries like India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, manual scavengers clean sewers or latrines by hand, often without protective gear. They're exposed to toxic gases, hydrogen sulfide, infections, and skin diseases, with life expectancy often under 50 years. Waste pickers in landfills, common in places like India, Brazil, or Nigeria, face cuts, infections, and respiratory issues from toxic waste, with injury rates high due to lack of regulation. Social stigma, extreme poverty, earnings as low as $1 to $5 a day, and dehumanizing conditions leads to depression and low self-worth. The constant risk of death or illness adds psychological strain. Why it's a top contender. The WHO and Human Rights Watch highlight manual scavenging as one of the most hazardous and degrading jobs, banned in places like India, but still practiced due to economic necessity and weak enforcement. So those are just the top 4. It keeps going. It gives me a number 5, but I feel like those, if those are the top 4, those are probably the best one. The next one is high altitude construction workers. That one's just a given. But personally, I feel like the manual scavengers, the dudes that go into the sewers in India, and they look for gold. They just look for anything valuable. I'm pretty sure I think that's got to be the hardest job. I mean, it's got to be the hardest by far.